My name is Ray Kuhl. I'm CEO of PBSI Technology Solutions, and I want to thank you for joining today's webinar, Securing Personal Data. This is the first of 3 cybersecurity education series webinars for clients and friends of Mariner Wealth Advisors. I want to thank our friends at Mariner who saw the need for this information and have been actively involved in planning for these webinars. We're honored to partner with Mariner in providing this content. I've known some individuals at Mariner for many years and very proud to be associated with a group who consistently demonstrates integrity and care about clients. That's been obvious in the preparation for this webinar. So we'll move quickly. Our goal today is simply to inform and educate. We want to improve knowledge about electronic security and provide practical information about what to change and how to go about that. So today's topic is an overview of the key elements of protecting personal information. It's really important content. The following 2 webinars, we'll talk about email security practices and file encryption, both packed with really useful tips and information that will help anyone who's interested in being better at active protection. And then possibly my most favorite important topic, password management and public Wi-Fi security, the final webinar, lots of content that's important. So today we'll be overviewing the basic elements, which if you took a broad brush at how do we protect security in general electronically, you start by establishing protection from the open internet, making sure that our PCs, laptops, and other phones and wireless devices are secure. We make sure that we protect important information. So this could be tax returns, Excel spreadsheets, Social Security number lists, whatever we have that we store on our personal devices. How do we make sure that that is protected in the event we were hacked, that that information would be safe and would be protected? One element is backup. We'll talk about that. And there are several principles we'll review, key principles of secure behavior. So finally, we'll do a short demonstration. How do you know if your protection is working? So I'll make a note. Some of you are, quote, the smart ones in the room, the folks who at Mariner who envisioned the need for this information, and those of you in attendance, you know that security is important, and presumably everyone has an area of interest to learn. Some of you are already very knowledgeable and you want to tune your knowledge. Some of you, you know it's important and it's time to take action and learn. So I believe there'll be something of value for everyone today. I'll also talk very quickly, by the way. I speak quickly naturally, but there's a lot of content, so I apologize for my rate of speech, but also I'll just note that I move quickly from screen to screen. So if you are doing something else while you're paying attention, you're likely, or while you're watching this, you may miss some content, just a heads up. So PBSI is a technology services provider with a focus on security. As CEO, I'm very blessed to say that the large majority of our staff have been with PBSI for many, many years, and I know that knowledge helps clients. And our basic goal and role is proactive IT security for businesses and individuals. So it's from the information we've learned over many, many years that we've accumulated the content from which I will speak today. So it's probably painfully obvious already. Why do we need protection? I think it's clear to everyone already, and the internet is very dangerous, and increasingly we're seeing PCs that are infected with malware, and that includes keylogging and phishing software that is resident on a computer. And the important thing to understand here is that victims are not notified. If you have a computer that's running slowly, it may not be anything that's wrong, but it could be malware that's running in the background, logging keystrokes. It's a very dangerous variant. So we'll talk about how do we know if it's there and how can we prevent and fix if this is the case. But as a result, there have been not just of hacking of PCs, but as a result of years and years of abuses by hackers, there are now 3.1 billion email addresses that are available for sale on the dark web. Of them, 1.2 billion, yes, billion, have exposed cracked passwords. And these are generally not the result of you made a mistake, you logged into the wrong site. Usually hacked passwords are a result where you stored your login and password with a trusted site and they were hacked. So LinkedIn, Yahoo, Gmail, DocuSign, Adobe, Dropbox, I mean, there are just hundreds and hundreds. The recent Marriott and Dell and recently healthcare.gov, the Obamacare website, have all been hacked. And it's almost like, how can we possibly prevent people knowing our confidential information when all of these folks out there are being attacked? And part of the answer that we'll come to is we really can't. And so we need to have some protections in place in case. So I'm going to do a very short demonstration here. I'm going to a website that PBSI pays a fee in order to be able to get to. And I'm going to do a search for compromised credentials. So where I'm querying into here is a place called the dark web. You've heard of it in ads. It's a place where you and I can't get to through our normal activity. You need to be using a Tor browser, and it's where the bad guys live and where they store information. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to search for compromised credentials associated with pbsinet.com, our domain at PBSI. And I'm using PBSI as an example because I simply wouldn't compromise anybody else in a demonstration like this. But you'll see, so here's PBSI, a secure company. We provide security services, and there are 51 examples of email addresses of real employees who've been compromised. So on this screen, what you're seeing is in most recent date sequence, each person, these are real email addresses at PBSI. Some of them have not worked at PBSI for many, many years. Still, the information was accumulated someplace at some point in time in the past. It's still published. It's available for sale. And what you can see is in this password column or in this cracked password column, these are exposed passwords. So we've done this kind of a search, and we will do this, by the way, for free. So one note you might want to make is in follow-up to this webinar, if you'd like us to do a search either for your organization or for you individually, you can send us a list of email addresses, and we will do the search for you for free and confidentially give you feedback about what passwords may have been compromised. The point here is it's very difficult to prevent your password being out there. So what we need to make sure is that we change any passwords that have been in long use and we don't reuse passwords on critical sites. So that's a lot of the content that we'll cover in webinar number 3, but I wanted to do this short demonstration so that you have this clear understanding that through no fault of our own, our passwords are out there. So it presents an environment where we need to understand what do we do then to prevent compromising our information. So here's the one-page summary of all of the fundamentals of security. So protecting ourselves from the internet includes, if we're in an organization, have a firewall. If you're in a home, firewall is generally overkill. You can use a software firewall. But some of the key elements of a firewall is that it's a simple, inexpensive box that stands between you and the internet. And what is important is that it's programmed properly. It's very inexpensive, very simple to do. You simply need a little bit of expertise to set these things up, where the idea of a firewall is not just to block traffic in and out. Yes, it does that, but to set it so that it runs silent, because you'll hear me say that there are millions of pings going out every day. If you understood how many times your computer is pinged in the course of a day, you'd be shocked if you're like most people. And what a firewall does is it prevents at the internet level, before anything gets to your PC, it blocks traffic. And if it's set to run silent, then it doesn't give any information to potential hackers. It's a big step that is step number 1 for organizations. Wireless. So I think most people understand today that if you have wireless in your home or your organization, that it needs to be password protected. That's very important. The key element here, protecting your wireless, use a current wireless access point. If you have a wireless access point that's more than 3 or 4 years old, you might want to replace it. They're very inexpensive. The reason is the technology of wireless protection has really made strides every few years. There's new protection technology. But what I want to say about this is use a long password. So why is that true? Wireless, as you may know, in your home, you see wireless from your neighbors. Well, a car parked on the street, a car in your neighbor's driveway. If a hacker wants your password, there are free tools that are available to a hacker that can decrypt almost any password given proximity and sufficient time. So if you use a password that's at least 10 or 12 characters long, somebody would have to be really, really patient. They would need a fast computer and a couple of hours in order to crack that. If it's 12 characters or longer, you're really safe. So it's a simple thing to do, use long password. Securing PCs and laptops, so that's where the most important area is for most of us. And I'll give more information here, but the summary is have active antivirus, have patch management that's running, have active vulnerability scans that are running, and avoid software downloads. So a bit more information. Antivirus, Windows Defender, by the way, that comes with Windows is not active antivirus. One recommendation here is there are many good antivirus products out there. We supply one, but there are many good ones. Recommendation is don't use free antivirus. If you're not paying a subscription, you probably should. All antivirus vendors have non-free versions. So ask yourself, why is there a non-free version? What is the difference? And the answer is there is a difference. There are differences, and these products are inexpensive. It's worth spending the money. And we have some recommendations, but have paid antivirus on all of your devices. So what this does is if that wrong click occurs and for whatever reason you do acquire the virus, that's where antivirus takes over and it mitigates damage. So it's the last line of defense. It's required for any PC, I'll say home or work. Patch management, this is important to understand. Some already know this, but you want to have every PC or laptop you have set to auto update, not just Windows, not just your antivirus, but all of your apps and browsers. So what this means is Internet Explorer or Edge or Chrome or whatever browser you use, as well as all your Adobe and Apple and Microsoft and other common products. Why is this so important? Why is it a key to security? Once security patches are released, which happens just dozens of times per day, various software manufacturers, they've been notified at some point in time in the past, there's a security hole in the Microsoft Office version XYZ, and they realize, this is a problem. They've gone about fixing it, and now they've released a security patch, and that security patch is available. Then they make a public announcement. It's not only available for download, but anyone paying attention to security services will see that today Microsoft released an update for Windows, and they've fixed issue A, B, and C. Well, when that happens, the clock is ticking, the race is on. What happens is hackers worldwide are probing for versions older than that because they're now able to test and say, I didn't know that vulnerability existed in Windows version X. And they test and see, I see how I can take advantage of that. And now they're sending out worldwide pings to every IP address, which includes yours, looking for any devices running that version of software that's older. And once they find it, they have an open door for an attack. So what do? If prompted on your PC, do you want to update? I'm not suggesting that you buy the latest version of Quicken. I'm saying that if Quicken has an update that's free security update, then always the answer is yes, you want to update. And when you see a message, do you want to reboot? Of course, you might not want to do it at that moment, but the answer is always yes, because rebooting successfully completes many patch updates. So this is a really important element. Some people don't know. I mean, there are so many publicized cases where public hacks, very important, highly publicized hacks took place because patch management failed. Edward Snowden, now famous hacker from many years ago, was a contractor for NSA, and all of the information he stole was as a result he had to work as a contractor updating patches on computers. And so he knew how to get underneath the surface, and he used unupdated software patches to gain access to all the information that he ended up compromising. And this just happens all the time. Okay, antivirus, patch management, vulnerability scanning. Most antivirus products run a vulnerability scan. And so that's good. You want that to run every night, and you can schedule these so they don't impact performance. But it's important that this is done. The question for most of us, have you ever seen a scan result? who is receiving and acting on alerts. So where this comes to play is if you're having scanning done, most of us, we don't have the time, the interest, the attention to go into our computer and look what's been the history of my scans, what's going on out there, which is one reason why I'll do a short demonstration of security monitoring, a very inexpensive process where somebody on the outside can be paying attention on your behalf. So having vulnerability scans run, that will identify issues on your computer that need attention. So another key element here in an organization, all of us should have this understanding that software downloads are bad. Okay, we all install apps, and on our phone it's one thing, on our PC you really want to limit these and particularly pay attention to the sites from which you're downloading. I believe in every organization software downloads should require a manager approval, and so if you're in an organization and your employee comes to you and says, can I download this software, the answer is no, unless there's a business reason for it, and then you get IT involved. But software downloads are very, very dangerous, and I've had experience where updating a browser many years ago, I typed in a search for that browser to download it, and the first thing that popped up was an ad. I downloaded it inappropriate, it came from the wrong place, and what I thought was a safe download of Adobe Acrobat turned out to be acquiring a virus. Nothing like personal experience to cement understanding, really careful about downloads. And if you were a bad guy and you wanted to attract people to download your bad software, where would you hide it? Screensavers, weather apps, coupon sites, free movies, free music. These are high risk areas because the bad guys know that's what people want, they search for. So pay attention to software downloads. And a minor thing here, which I hope there's nobody listening to me who doesn't already do this, for your portable devices, your phones and tablets, it's really important that you use a passcode, because otherwise you lose it. In many of our cases, the keys to the kingdom are stored on our portable devices. And one other element here, do not store saved passwords on laptops that are not very secure. If it's something you keep at home all the time and you want to store a saved password, fine. I wouldn't store your saved password to your Mariner account, that kind of thing. Key things, don't store saved passwords. Okay, so this is broad brush. I'm going to move on and just cover some details underneath this. So I mentioned file encryption. So we're going to cover this topic in more detail in the next webinar, but very briefly, encryption is something that we want to make sure is in place for key documents that we want to protect. Why is that true? I have my tax return on my computer. It has my Social Security number. Am I really so concerned with that? Well, it's only my Social Security number, and maybe not. Maybe my tax return on my own computer, I don't take that approach. But if I have a list of Social Security numbers or something that's more important, or a list of accounts with account numbers, that kind of data you want to encrypt even on your home PC. Why is that true? If you are hacked, we're going to do all these things to prevent being hacked, but the bad guys are very smart and they are relentless. If you have valuable information and somebody has electronic access to your device, when that day comes, you do not want them to be able to open up the keys to the kingdom. So decide which documents. This is important, but there are two elements of encryption. Encryption, I think most people know, is a term that describes garbling data so that it can't be opened without a password. And the password length is important for the same reason it's important for wireless, that a password cracker program will take too long for people to be patient with in order to open up a file if it's got at least an 8-character password. So encrypting files is important both at rest and in transmission. These are two separate items. At rest simply means it's stored on a hard drive. Nothing's being done with it right now. It's sitting there like your tax return from last year. It just sits there and it's at rest. So encrypting it means storing it with a password. We'll go through exactly how to do this and how to do it simply with both Office programs and PDFs. You can do this without extra cost. So decide which files you want to encrypt at rest. Very important. And I'll say an area where we find financial management firms, CPA firms, we talk to all the time, we find this violated so frequently, here's the key principle. If you're emailing confidential information, either encrypt the email or encrypt the attachment. So Mariner Wealth Advisors offers a share file that you can use to transmit documents, and that is encrypted. It is safe. But unless you're using a secure portal like Mariner offers, if you're going to send an email to your wealth advisor and it includes, or your accountant, make sure that either the email is encrypted or the attachment is encrypted. So we'll dive into this how to in the next webinar. So it's very important. Backup. This doesn't need to be mentioned, but I'm mentioning it because we find as a security firm, so frequently backup is just not attended to in the way that it needs to be. And I can tell you from experience of many, many years in supporting clients, disasters happen, and they happen when you don't expect it. My hard drive will never fail. It's worked for years and years. I cease to be concerned about it because it's been so long since it's been in front of mind. That's when a disaster will happen. And when it happens, you cannot go back at that time. You have to have considered it in advance. So you're protecting against hardware failures, ransomware attacks that have destroyed your data, theft, deletions, software updates that cause problems that no longer can you access a document that you used to be able to access. Automatic backup is simple and inexpensive. So PBSI offers services in a number of these areas, but I want to continue to emphasize that these webinars are about education. We're not trying to sell products or services. So if you want advice or options or recommendations on what backup software to use or so forth, we're happy to provide that. But whatever tool you use, make sure it's automated. And increasingly, cloud backup, which some people have security concerns about, the credible software vendors offering cloud backup are very, very safe. They're encrypting the cloud backup at a very high level, and there are benefits. One that's really key is that your backup is almost always redundant. You have a local backup and you have a cloud backup, and it's worthwhile. I recommend this. So however you do it, make sure your key documents are backed up, whether that's your home PC or an office PC. Okay, some other miscellaneous items that don't really fall into one of the major categories. Protect the general category of what's called Internet of Things. TVs, printers, thermostats, doorbells, cameras, appliances, Alexa, all these are in the category of, they're not computers per se, but they have internet access. Change default passwords. If you have any device where you didn't intentionally set a password to it, go home today and change that password, because these are open doors to your network. Once you connect your television to your local network and it doesn't have a separate protection, then you've opened your network to anybody who knows what the default password is for your TV or printer or other devices. So this is increasingly important, and hackers are aware that people aren't thinking about this, so think about it. Phones. So increasingly, there's an attack vector, which probably most of you experienced, just like I have, especially recently in the past several months, significant increase in phishing. That's the term for phishing by phone. Sometimes this comes phone calls that you answer, but you've probably already seen this, but if you get a phone call and you don't have it in your contact list, not only matching your area code, frequently these are attempting to match the first three digits of your phone number. So if you see an incoming call and you don't know the contact and the area code and the first three digits match yours, I would block that caller immediately. Google Voice is one of the options on the market where for free you can sign up for Google Voice and you can pick phone numbers and the phone numbers change, and it's not just Google Voice, but there's a world out there now where hackers can acquire new phone numbers and they can choose phone numbers for you that are in your local area code. So just don't answer them, and as soon as you don't answer, then block the caller. I guarantee Microsoft will not call you to ask if your computer's running slowly. They will not call you to tell you you need a security update or any other manner of phone call. So it's an increasing problem. Privacy settings. If you're using Windows 10, the default setting for advertising is to enable. So This is a picture on my screen of a section under security settings where you can change privacy options, and you want to set advertising enabling to off and off. Those are not the default settings. Very simple, but otherwise your PC is sending information to places where you're not sure if their use of it is going to be acceptable. I mentioned downloads. Just stay away from unfamiliar sites for downloads. If you go to adobe.com and download Adobe Acrobat, fine, but don't load Adobe Acrobat from some other site that says they provide that for free. So upcoming webinars, we're going to dive into email security practices and password management. These are really important. Right now, I'm going to do a very short demonstration of why you want to have these tools in place: antivirus, patch management, vulnerability scanning, and risk intelligence scanning. We will be through very quickly, so I'll be very quick with this. What you're seeing on your screen now is security monitoring as we do it at PBSI, where I see a list of all the PCs at PBSI. So we can monitor one individual PC for a client, or we can monitor more than one. When security monitoring is in place, I'm going to select my PC. So on PBSI's dashboard, the PC I'm selecting is the one I'm sitting in front of right now speaking to you. But the security monitoring dashboard that's looked at by PBSI technicians see things that Ray, in his normal working at his PC, doesn't see. The status of all kinds of Windows activities, if the disk is okay, if web use is okay, antivirus is updated, patch management is either okay or not, and they can automatically take care of issues like this, where here was a patch that's available and not yet installed, and this kind of thing can be done on your behalf remotely. So patch management's taken care of, antivirus is taken care of, backup status is taken care of. So technician can see that on this PC, the green line on top of each day, this PC has been successfully backed up for each of the last 28 days, and today hasn't happened yet. So the status of whether everything is okay on your PC, this is something that for between $4 or $7 a month can be installed for any PC, and we're providing discounts for all clients of Mariner Wealth Advisors. So I'm not trying to sell the service of monitoring, but I'm saying that one way or another, this idea of having your PC monitored, it's inexpensive, and we would know, the monitoring would know immediately if there is a virus that's active or any threats that have not been mitigated. So I just want to mention that the combination of having antivirus, patch management, vulnerability scanning, risk intelligence scanning, and backup in one place is available, and it's available very cost effectively. One word about risk intelligence scanning. So I didn't demonstrate this, but I'm going to make a comment. Risk intelligence scanning is a component where we can actually search electronically for all incidences of unprotected, which means unencrypted, protected information. So the word protected information would apply in healthcare, PHI, protected health information; in a commercial world, PII, protected individual information. And when this scan is run, it will find all unencrypted examples of documents with social security numbers, dates of birth, passwords, stored associated with emails. It's a very, very useful thing that would identify in advance, before you are hacked, what documents might exist on your hard drive that might be at risk. So very useful. So we are finished with content. I would just want to summarize the content we talked about today: securing your desktops, laptops, and phones, encrypting sensitive information at risk, making sure your documents are backed up, knowing if your PCs are safe, paying attention to the Internet of Things devices you might have in your homes or potentially workplaces, protecting your phones, and being an active learner. Mistakes are very, very expensive, and no one ever, after a security hack event, the emotional turmoil and the interruption of activities is, you already understand, I'm sure, very, very stressful. In upcoming webinars, email security practices, we're going to talk about the importance and the difference in recognize solicited versus unsolicited email. We'll go through a litany of sample emails showing how you can evaluate why you should have your antenna up, how to have your antenna up. Don't get news from email. This is content that we'll spend some time unpacking. It's very, very important. And then in the final webinar, so next week will be email security practices. That's next Wednesday. And then the following Wednesday, we'll go through password management, what some options are, how to use a password manager, why it's important. This is a how-to on solving the very difficult problem of password management, which is a problem for all of us. So those are upcoming webinars. So we're finished with content. I want to thank you for your attendance. If you haven't seen, you can download this as right now. This is a summary of some of the topics we talked about today. We will send this attachment to each of you who've attended this webinar. It's a one-page summary that clarifies today's content. So if you'd like quotes for services, you're welcome to request these. We will not reach out to you in contact unless you've requested. This is something where we understand, and Maren is very professional and understands that the privacy of clients is very, very important, and we will completely respect that. So unless you reach out, you won't hear from us. You can still register, and you do need to register separately for each webinar. So when you log off, you'll get an email, and in that email, there will be a questionnaire. One of the questions will be, do you want to be registered for the next two webinars? And you can simply make a click, and if you're not already registered, we'll register you. So that's up to you. We're finished for today. I want to thank you for your attendance and hope this has been valuable. So everybody, I hope you have a good day.